everybody. Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement, bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training. Before I get started, please definitely subscribe, share this video with others, whether they are colleagues, families, classmates who might be interested or are already venturing into the world of neurodivergent fitness. In this edition, we are going to be discussing communication. Yes, we are communicating about communicating. And there's some really important aspects of communication that are going to have direct impact on our coaching and how effective it is with our neurodivergent athletes. As it is always the case, the neurodivergent spectrum or continuum is vast. These are best practice principles, regardless of the individual that you're working with. Some of them are going to have direct application to every single athlete, and others, it's going to take a little bit of not trial and error, but being pragmatic in the way that you are implementing the practices. Again, the practices, I say again because I say this in every video, the practices, the strategies are tools. When you become more adept, when you become more advanced, when you become more practiced in utilizing them, the correct answers, the best application is going to come easier. And there's no better way to learn than our Autism Fitness Pro curriculum. You can learn more about it. The link is in the description below, down there somewhere. But coming back to communication, what to use and what to avoid, these are really important things, and a lot of it comes back to theory of mind. The one thing to get first is that our athlete may not be understanding the exercise or the activity or the sequence of events in the same way that you are as the coach. As the coach, we understand, or at least should, what we're going to do first, what we're going to do second, what the structure of the session is going to look like, and also how the exercise is supposed to be performed. These are all things that a good, effective coach should know. You should know what the exercise does. You should know what it looks like when it's being performed at standard, meaning safely and effectively with proper technique and tempo and the right amount of resistance and the right positioning. All of these things matter. Understanding that, we need to take into consideration that our athlete may not have the same appreciation or understanding of that same exercise or those exercises. That athlete may not even necessarily understand why they are in the fitness session, because if that athlete is not expressing or is not, to our understanding, getting the reasoning, like the why am I here, that's another thing that we want to reinforce using language and of course using the appropriate contingencies. But back to the idea and the reference point of the exercise itself, this leaves a gap for us to fill in information-wise for our athlete. First thing is to communicate how to perform the exercise correctly, and for every athlete that's going to differ a little bit. Now I'm going to back up just a minute, because before we even get to the exercise, we want to offer the athlete choice. The first thing that we're going to do in our session communication-wise is a quick check-in. I tend not to ask the athlete immediately, oh, how is your day going? Because really, who wants to be asked that immediately? Hey, how's your day going? I'll do a quick check-in with my athlete and say, hey, how is everything feeling today? From feet, knees, hips, shoulders, everything feeling all right? And once we've established that the athlete is okay and ready to go, then our next communication, unless the athlete is offering some other information, is going to be what choice they're making around that particular exercise sequence. Do you want to do the push throw first? Do you want to do the overhead throw first? Great. athlete communicates that to me, either verbally or otherwise, but I want to have a communication system for them, either visual or text-based, that they can reference so that we can then communicate about what is on that programming board. When we get into the exercises themselves, the first rule is do not, for those of you who are already certified pros, say this with me, do not overcoach. Overcoaching is the number one mistake that coaches will make with any, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, with any athlete, neurodivergent or otherwise, but particularly with our autism and neurodivergent life skill athletes. And what does overcoaching sound like? It sounds something like this. Okay, Trevor, first we're gonna do a standing band row. What I'm gonna need you to do is get your feet into the circle, and then you're gonna keep your feet about shoulder width, and then you're gonna grab the band handles and you're gonna hold them really tight, and then you're gonna step back, and okay, then you're gonna do the pull, but remember to do the pull with your back, and because it's gonna get your back really strong. This is overcoaching. It is way too much information. It is seldom, if ever, going to be anywhere approaching effective. And we see and hear it all the time. The rule is to eradicate overcoaching. How do we do that? Instead of giving all of that information verbally, we use our label, demo, do, and cue methodology strategy. Right? That is part of our autism fitness methodology. Label, demo, do, and cue means we just give the name of the exercise. I'm bringing back my New York roots here. We're just doing the thing. We're just naming the exercise, particularly if the athlete has never seen or done, to our knowledge, that standing band row or that squat or that overhead press before. So instead of going into long, detailed explanation of the exercise, what it's for, how to do it, their positioning, everything that needs to be happening right now, we're cutting all of that out. And all we're doing is naming the exercise. Okay, band rows, then I'll go first, and then you go after me, right? So we've gone beyond the label. I've labeled, I've named the exercise. Demonstrate, right? I demonstrate the exercise at standard, independently, with proper technique and good form, for like 5 to maybe 10 repetitions, making sure that the athlete is watching either directly or peripherally, but making sure they're in the general vicinity so they have an opportunity to watch me perform the exercise. And then enable the athlete to do it as quickly as possible. Onboard them, have them do the exercise so that we, as the coaches, can figure out at what level of capability can they currently perform this exercise. Okay, great. So that is effective communication, and it does not matter here if we have a highly verbal and expressive athlete, if we have an athlete who has minimal verbal capability or expressive language, doesn't matter. It's going to be the same. Because again, this transcends just the neurodivergent population. This is how we coach movement. And when we start to overcoach, then it is going to cause things to go haywire because it's too much information, right? That's effective communication. Now, another thing that we want to do, second thing, is be consistent with our communication. I've spoken about this in some other Tuesday training videos. I'm going to bring it up again because it's an important point. When we are naming or labeling an exercise, so this is a push throw, I do the push throw, I always call it the same thing. So on Tuesday, it's a push throw. If we do it again on Thursday, it's not, oh, let's do a push pass or let's do a chest pass. It is always a push throw. This is going to create continuity. It is also a teaching tool to let our athlete know what the name of this exercise is and always will be. So the second thing in communication is continuity, right? Keeping the same name of the exercise at all times, always, 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 all right? Especially when we're giving the athlete choice, because now if the athlete is giving us verbally their pick of they want to do the push throw or the overhead throw, if they have to sort through 3 or 4 different names of this exercise, that's too much. It's too much processing that they have to do. One name per exercise and keep it consistent. All right? Another thing, when we're coaching form, so this is number 3, communication point. Communication point number 3 is when we are cueing an athlete, we want to be specific in what we want them to do, and at the same time, we also want to eliminate language that focuses on what they are either doing incorrectly or not doing, or anything else that would be more on the punitive or judgmental side of the exercise. Now, that's not to say that there certainly aren't things to correct when an athlete is doing that squat or an overhead press or a push-up, because what we know in our autism and neurodivergent populations is there is a lot of movement compensation. There are a lot of strength deficits. There are prevalent motor planning issues, and we want to address all these. However, we don't need to tell the athlete about what they're doing incorrectly. So another overheard coaching error is, oh no, don't do it that way, or you know how to do it correctly, or do it the proper way, or you need to focus right now. All of these, take those phrases, think about them, and place them in the garbage can. You can take all those and place them in the garbage, so to speak. All right? We are never going to coach our athletes by telling them what we don't want them to do. And this is not just from a happy, feel-good place. This is from an effectiveness standpoint. Again, we don't want to take our athletes' attention away from doing the exercise properly. And if we're talking about what we don't want them to do, then we get pink elephant syndrome. Of course, the pink elephant thing is, first thing I want you to do is not think about a pink elephant. Well, then you have to think about it in order to not think about it. It's the same thing. When we call attention to the behavior or the performance that we don't want, the athlete may focus on that instead of us giving a positive cue. Positive cues are great, and we can give short, concise positive cues as well. An example that we use all the time in our programming is behavior-specific praise. So when the athlete is performing that 1 or those 2 reps really well, and say, awesome squat, you were going slow, great control of your legs. Not only is it more positive and productive feedback, but we can also limit the amount of verbiage that we're using, because we don't, again, want to use a lot of language while the athlete is performing the exercise, because it is going to be distracting. So if it's going to be distracting, then we want to limit the amount of language that we're using in that situation. After the set is done, then we may want to have a slightly longer conversation or interaction about that exercise. We can give feedback like, hey, that was a great set. You just did 10 really good reps. Okay, what do we have next? That kind of thing. So think about the amount of information that we're giving to the athlete while they're performing the exercise, and we want to use positive interaction and positive reinforcement even when the athlete is starting to have technical breakdown of that exercise, because sometimes that technical breakdown is going to occur because they're fatigued, and sometimes it's going to happen because they're dysregulated, right? It's our job to coach and cue. And fourth and finally, in communication strategies, is avoiding using analogous language. So analogous language is go as fast as A, or jump as high as A, or be as powerful as A, because oftentimes for our very literal thinkers, of which the autism population has many, that type of premise is not going to land for them. And you also need a reference point, and this comes back to theory of mind that I was talking about in the beginning of the video. You need a reference point in order for an term. What do I mean by that? faster, stronger, slower. You need a reference point for what is fast and what is slower, right? If our athlete doesn't have a reference point for that, that verbal cue is not going to be effective. And then what's going to happen? The coach is going to start getting frustrated because I keep telling them to go faster. Yes, but it's a relative term. And if our athlete doesn't understand what that term means, then they're going to have a very difficult, if not impossible time executing that movement to that particular level of capability, because the word that you're using does not coincide with an understanding that they have of it. So we need to be really considerate of maybe the athlete needs a demonstration of this, because for that or those athletes, faster, slower, higher, more power, whatever it is, that is not going to be an effective approach, because they are not taking that term and referencing or comparing and contrasting it against another term. So faster or slower, what do these actually mean? So a lot of this is going to come back to the meaningfulness of the terminology that we're using for our athlete. So it is an improper practice to just assume that the athlete is automatically going to know what we're talking about, appreciate the exercise in and of itself, and be able to execute based on just stuff that we're saying. So much of it comes back to our ability to demonstrate the exercise properly, modify the exercise properly, and give coaching and cueing feedback that works for that particular athlete. Now, the nice thing is that we don't have to have a completely individualized approach to every single athlete. There are going to be small aspects of individualization with each athlete, things that we're going to learn about their personality, about their processing, about their communication, of course. But if we look at these strategies as general principles and apply them in the way that they are intended to be applied, then you're going to have good outcomes. So I hope these 4 have helped you. I'd love to know, leave comments in the comments below, in the comment section below, if this has been helpful for you. If you have other questions about coaching, communication, and best practices, leave those down there in the comments below. I love answering these questions. And of course, if you have a topic you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday Training, leave that down there also. I love to know what you want to know, because it only makes this channel stronger. And speaking of stronger, if you are ready to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro and bring strength programs to your autism and neurodivergent community, then look no further than the Autism Fitness Certification. You can register right now, have immediate access to your coursework, and be well on your way to attending your full day, hands-on, feet-on, brains-on pro practical that you can attend virtually or in person anywhere in the world. We have different dates and time zones set up all throughout the year so that we can serve you, so that you can serve your community. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. Thank you very much for watching.